The courtroom was silent until it wasn't. A sharp voice pierced through the air, slicing through the tension like a blade. "You're wrong, Judge. You don't know what you're talking about." The words came from a woman everyone in the room had already labeled Karen. She wasn't just loud, she was defiant, standing with her hands on her hips as if daring the world to challenge her. But what she didn't realize was that the world had already chosen its champion. And that champion was Judge Judy. Before we dive into this incredible case, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing where my viewers are around the world. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss more unbelievable cases like this one. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The audience gasped. Even the cameras hesitated to pan, unsure whether to focus on Karen's furious face or the frozen, unreadable stare on Judy's. For a long, electric moment, Judy said nothing. She just looked at her, one eyebrow raised, lips pressed tight as if holding back a storm. The bailiff shifted uncomfortably. Karen smirked, mistaking silence for fear. But it wasn't fear. It was calculation. Judy had faced thousands of cases, but this one was different. Because behind the shouting, the insults, and the arrogance, she saw something else, something broken hiding beneath the noise. Karen had come to court over a simple dispute, a $200 loan gone bad between two former best friends. But for her, this wasn't about money. It was about pride. She had been laughed at, mocked online, and labeled Fat Karen after a viral video showed her shouting at a barista. The internet had turned her pain into entertainment, and this courtroom was her last chance to reclaim control. She didn't want justice. She wanted revenge, and she had chosen the wrong judge to find it. Judy finally spoke, her voice calm, measured, almost disarmingly gentle. "Are you finished?" she asked. The tone was soft, but the meaning was steel. Karen laughed mockingly. "Yeah, I'm finished. You just love acting superior, don't you? You're always right, huh?" Her words echoed in the still air, feeding on their own arrogance. Judy leaned back slightly, folding her hands. "I'm not always right," she said quietly. "But I'm rarely wrong when pride walks in dressed as pain." For a moment the room didn't understand. But then Judy's eyes met Karen's, and something in that gaze shifted the entire mood. This wasn't just another outburst. This was a test of dignity versus ego. Judy wasn't angry. She was watching, studying, waiting for the perfect moment to remind everyone that respect isn't demanded. It's earned. Behind that calm exterior, she had already spotted inconsistencies in Karen's story. The receipts didn't match. The timeline was shaky. The accusations didn't add up. And while Karen thought she was winning the room with her volume, Judy was quietly setting the stage for a takedown that would soon be remembered as one of her greatest ever. Because what no one realized, not even Karen, was that Judy wasn't just preparing to deliver justice. She was preparing to deliver a lesson. And when it landed, it wouldn't just silence Karen. It would echo across the internet, proving once again that in Judge Judy's courtroom, arrogance never wins. It only exposes itself. Before you hear Judge Judy's legendary comeback, tell me in the comments. If someone shouted "you're wrong" to you in front of a crowd, would you stay calm like Judy? Or clap back instantly? The courtroom was still buzzing from Karen's outburst, but Judy's calm response had left a quiet tension hanging in the air. A calm before a storm nobody saw coming. Karen leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, wearing that same smug grin that had already irritated half the audience. "So what now, Your Honor?" she said with a hint of mockery. "You gonna lecture me about respect?" Judy's gaze didn't waver. "No," she replied evenly. "I'm going to give you the chance to tell the truth. Let's see if you can handle it." The case on paper was simple. Karen had loaned her best friend Linda $1,200 to start a small home bakery, but soon after the friendship crumbled. Karen claimed Linda never repaid her. Linda claimed Karen had demanded more than what she gave. The numbers didn't line up, and neither did their stories. But Judy had seen something deeper in Karen's file. Patterns of exaggeration, manipulation, and control. This wasn't just a legal issue. It was emotional warfare disguised as justice. Karen's voice dripped with bitterness as she spoke. "She used me. I helped her get on her feet, and she stabbed me in the back. That's what people do. They take advantage of good-hearted folks like me." The audience shifted uneasily, sensing the irony. Linda stayed quiet, clutching her documents, eyes glistening but determined. Judy raised a hand toward her gently. "Ms. Linda, I'll get to you soon," she said, her tone warm but commanding. Then she turned back to Karen, her expression softening just slightly. "Tell me," Judy said, "if you're such a good-hearted person, why does your kindness sound so angry?" The question hit like a slow echo, gentle yet piercing. Karen blinked, caught off guard, fumbling for words. "Because I'm tired of being taken advantage of," she snapped. "I'm tired of people walking all over me just because I'm not." She stopped, her voice cracking slightly. Because I'm not perfect. For the first time there was silence, not from defiance but from exhaustion. The mask slipped just for a moment. Judy saw it, and the audience did too. Beneath the arrogance was someone wounded by ridicule, desperate to feel seen in a world that had mocked her for how she looked, how she spoke, and how she tried to matter. But Judy wasn't going to let her hide behind pain forever. Being imperfect, Judy said softly, isn't the same as being cruel. Don't confuse the two. Her words landed with precision, each syllable like a scalpel cutting away excuses. Karen frowned, defensive again. You don't know what it's like to be judged by how you look, she muttered. Judy's eyes sharpened. You think respect belongs to the flawless? No, respect belongs to the honest. The courtroom seemed to breathe again, the tension shifting. Judy wasn't humiliating her, she was disarming her. But as Karen's pride began to crack, Judy's sharp instincts noticed something else. A missing transaction date in the evidence. And that single detail would soon unravel Karen's entire story, revealing a twist nobody expected. Karen didn't know it yet, but the truth was already turning against her, one question at a time. Judy adjusted her glasses and leaned forward, the courtroom lights gleaming faintly across her robe. All right, she said, voice crisp and calm. Let's go over the receipts again. Her tone wasn't just professional, it was surgical. The kind that slices through lies before the liar even realizes they've been cut. Karen's jaw tightened. I already told you everything, she snapped. You just don't want to hear it. Judy's expression didn't move. Oh, I heard you, she said. I just haven't heard the truth yet. A low ripple of laughter passed through the audience, and Karen's face flushed red. Her hands trembled slightly, but her mouth refused to stay closed. You always think you're smarter than everyone else, she said bitterly. You're sitting up there with your perfect hair and your cameras acting like God. Judy's eyes narrowed slightly, not out of anger, but focus. I don't act like God, she replied. I act like a judge, and the difference is that I have evidence. She tapped the document in front of her. And yours doesn't add up. Karen leaned forward, voice trembling between rage and panic. It's not about the papers, it's about principle. She used me, she shouted, pointing toward Linda, but Judy's attention was fixed like a laser. No, she said sharply. What you're doing now isn't about principle. It's about punishment. You wanted to humiliate her, not help her. The room went still. Karen froze mid-breath. Even Linda looked shocked, as though Judy had pulled the thoughts right out of her chest. Judy continued, voice low but firm. I've met 1,000 people like you, Miss Karen. You call it honesty, but it's cruelty with lipstick. You call it truth, but it's just revenge wearing a nice dress. For the first time, Karen looked uncertain. Her eyes darted around the courtroom, searching for someone to back her up, but no one met her gaze. Judy's words hit like quiet thunder. No shouting, no drama, just authority that made the walls themselves listen. Then Judy's hand brushed across the papers again, stopping on one that looked slightly off. The date. It didn't match the timeline Karen had sworn was true. Judy noticed it immediately. Tell me something, she said slowly. If this payment was made in February, why does this bank statement show March? Karen blinked fast, her face going pale. That's a typo, she stammered. Judy tilted her head, eyes locked. A typo that just happens to move $1,000 into your favor? The room gasped. Even the cameraman froze. Judy waited, patient, controlled, watching the truth crumble piece by piece. You wanted to prove me wrong, she said finally. But facts don't care about who's louder. Karen slumped back, speechless for the first time since walking in. The balance of power had shifted, and as Judy straightened in her chair, her next words carried quiet fire. I told you once, respect isn't about who wins the argument, it's about who tells the truth. For the first time, Karen had no comeback. Only silence. Karen's silence didn't last long. The moment she realized the room was watching her crumble, the mask went back on. She straightened, crossed her arms, and forced out a scoff that sounded weaker than she intended. So what? You're saying I made a mistake. Big deal. Judy didn't flinch. No, she replied, voice razor sharp. I'm saying you lied. And there's a difference between a mistake and manipulation. The words landed like a gavel before the verdict. The courtroom murmured again, but Judy raised her hand, commanding silence with nothing more than a look. She turned the page, scanning the evidence once more before continuing in that calm, surgical tone that had made her famous. You wanted this courtroom to see you as a victim, she said. But I see something else. I see a woman so afraid of being wrong that she'd rather twist the truth than face it. Karen laughed awkwardly, shaking her head. Oh, please don't turn this into some therapy session. You're not my shrink. Judy leaned forward, eyes locked on her. No, I'm not your shrink. I'm your mirror, and you don't like what's looking back. A ripple ran through the crowd. Even Linda's tearful eyes lifted, drawn to the quiet power in Judy's words. It wasn't just a comeback. It was truth framed in elegance, and it was slowly undoing every ounce of arrogance that had filled the room. Karen tried again to salvage the moment. You think you know everything, don't you? You think people like me don't get pushed around? Her voice cracked mid-sentence. You don't know what it's like to be laughed at every day? For the first time, Judy's tone softened. Not weak, not forgiving, but human. You're right, she said. I don't know what it's like to be you, but I do know what it's like to lose yourself trying to win an argument. Karen blinked fast, her anger faltering for the first time. I'm not lost, she whispered, but even she didn't sound convinced. Judy looked down briefly, then back up. You want to be respected? Start by respecting the truth. She turned her gaze toward Linda, who had sat quietly through the storm. Ms. Linda, would you please hand me your original payment record? Linda nodded, her fingers trembling as she passed the folder. Judy opened it, cross-checking details against Karen's copies. Then in that chillingly calm tone, she said, Well, it looks like we have our answer, and it's not the one you were hoping for. The evidence made it undeniable. Linda had paid the loan, every cent. Karen had fabricated a date to make it appear unpaid. The courtroom gasped. The lie was naked now, stripped of its excuses. Karen froze, her lips parting but no sound escaping. The same mouth that once filled the room with noise now had nothing left to defend itself. Judy leaned back slowly, voice soft, but final. When the truth stands tall, she said, every lie falls silent. And in that moment, for the first time since walking into the courtroom, Karen finally understood silence wasn't weakness, it was justice breathing. If you think Judge Judy's calm strength just delivered one of the greatest comebacks ever, type legendary in the comments below. Let's see how many of you felt that moment hit hard. The air in the courtroom felt heavier now, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see if Karen would find a way to twist out of what was already unraveling. But she didn't speak. She just sat there, staring at the papers in front of her, her face blank except for the faint twitch at the corner of her mouth. The silence was a verdict in itself. Judy watched her for a long moment, then said softly, I'll give you a chance to respond, but I suggest you choose your words carefully. The truth has already spoken. Karen swallowed, her throat tight. You don't understand, she muttered. She lied to me before. She's the one who... Judy's gavel hit the bench with a sharp crack, the sound echoing like thunder. Enough, she said firmly. Do not insult this court by doubling down on a lie that's already been proven false. The authority in her tone was absolute. Even the camera crew paused, sensing the gravity of what was unfolding. Judy's voice dropped lower, slower. You came into this courtroom looking for validation, not justice. You wanted the world to see you as the victim, but justice doesn't play favorites, it listens. Karen's lips quivered. You think I wanted this? She asked, her voice trembling. You think I enjoy being humiliated? Judy's expression softened just slightly. No, she said. I think you wanted to feel powerful again, but you confused power with cruelty, and you let that confusion cost you your integrity. A quiet tear rolled down Karen's cheek before she could stop it. She wiped it away quickly, pretending it wasn't there, but the audience saw. The walls of arrogance that had defined her were cracking, and something raw, something human was showing through. Judy didn't look away. You're not the first person to let pain turn into pride, she said gently. But when you do, you lose both. Linda sat quietly, hands clasped tightly together. For a moment, even she seemed to feel sympathy for the woman who had just tried to destroy her. The courtroom wasn't divided anymore. It was reflective, subdued, silent, except for the soft hum of the lights above. Judy sighed, closing the file. This case is clear, she said. The plaintiff falsified evidence and the defendant owes her nothing. Judgment for the defendant. The gavel came down one last time, crisp and final. Karen exhaled shakily, the weight of it hitting her all at once. The cameras zoomed in on her face. Not the face of defiance from the start, but the face of a woman realizing she had been her own undoing. Judy stood slowly, gathering her notes. People will forget what you said, she said quietly, but they won't forget how you made them feel. Today you made them feel pity. Next time, give them a reason to feel respect. As Judy turned to leave, the courtroom remained still, every viewer knowing they had just witnessed not just justice but redemption wrapped in truth, spoken by a woman who never needed to raise her voice to command a nation's respect. Karen sat in stunned silence, long after Judge Judy left the bench. The cameras had stopped rolling, but the weight of the moment still hung thick in the air. The audience began to shuffle out quietly, whispering in disbelief, replaying Judy's words over and over. It wasn't just a ruling, it was a dismantling of arrogance in real time. The bailiff gave Karen a sympathetic nod, but she couldn't meet his eyes. For the first time in years, she felt truly small. Not because of her size, but because of the truth she'd tried to bury. Linda gathered her papers carefully, still shaken. She didn't gloat, didn't smirk, didn't say, "I told you so." Instead, she walked over, pausing beside Karen's chair. "I didn't want it to end like this," she said softly. Karen looked up, her mascara smudged, her eyes tired. "Then why did you do it?" she whispered. Linda hesitated, then answered quietly, "Because you left me no choice." And with that, she turned and left the courtroom, leaving Karen alone with the echo of everything she'd lost. The cameras outside were waiting. The case had gone viral long before it aired, and reporters were already gathering quotes for tomorrow's headlines. But when Karen stepped through the courthouse doors, no one called her name. No microphones were shoved in her face. The reporters had turned their lenses toward Judy's final statement instead, a single quote already circulating online. "When the truth stands tall, every lie falls silent." It was everywhere. On Twitter, Instagram, and morning talk shows, people replayed the clip of Judy's piercing stare, her calm delivery, her unwavering grace. The internet wasn't mocking Karen this time. It was praising Judy for handling cruelty with wisdom. Karen walked down the courthouse steps, the California sun hot against her skin, but she felt cold. For years, she had lived behind a wall of excuses and anger. Every insult she'd ever received had become fuel for bitterness. Every loss had turned into a reason to lash out. But now, stripped of her defenses, she couldn't hide from what Judy had exposed. She wasn't fighting for fairness. She was fighting to feel superior. And she had lost both the fight and herself. That night, Karen sat in her car outside her apartment, staring at her reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back at her wasn't the strong version she'd always tried to project. She saw the truth, the exhaustion, the regret, the loneliness she'd been disguising as confidence. She thought about Judy's words again. "You're not the first person to let pain turn into pride." It replayed in her mind like a whisper she couldn't turn off. For the first time, she didn't argue with it. She just listened. Inside her apartment, the TV was already replaying the episode. Karen froze when she heard her own voice echoing from the screen, shouting, mocking, sneering. It was unbearable. She turned it off, but the silence afterward felt even louder. She opened her laptop and typed "Judge Judy Fat Karen episode" into the search bar. The clip had over 1 million views in just a few hours. The comments were brutal, but mixed among the laughter and insults were others that stopped her cold. "She's not evil. She's just hurt. That judge didn't destroy her, she taught her. Maybe this will wake her up." Karen sat back, tears welling in her eyes. For once, she wasn't angry at what people were saying, because deep down she knew they were right. She had been hurt, and she had turned that hurt into something ugly. But Judy hadn't humiliated her. She'd exposed the truth with grace, and somehow that felt less like punishment and more like a second chance. The next morning, Karen did something unexpected. She opened her social media account, the same one where she'd once argued with strangers and posted long rants about being mistreated. She deleted all of it. Every post, every angry comment, every bitter meme. In their place, she wrote something simple. "Yesterday I learned the hardest truth of my life. I wasn't fighting the world. I was fighting myself. Judge Judy, thank you for showing me the difference." Within hours, her post was shared thousands of times. People commented things like "respect," "proud of you for owning it," and "that's how you grow." For the first time, she didn't feel attacked. She felt understood. Meanwhile, Judy's clip continued to dominate headlines. On a late-night interview, when asked how she stayed so calm during confrontations, she smiled and said, "It's easy to stay calm when you know the truth will always do the shouting for you." The audience applauded. Weeks later, Karen returned to work at the cafe where she'd once been recorded yelling at an employee. This time, when a young barista accidentally spilled her drink, she didn't explode. She smiled gently and said, "It's okay. Happens to everyone." The girl looked surprised, even grateful, and for the first time in a long time, Karen realized she didn't need to prove herself. She just needed to be kind. That night, as she sat by her window, phone buzzing with a notification, she saw a message from an unknown number. "It takes strength to admit when you're wrong. Keep using that strength for good." JJ, Karen smiled through tears. She didn't know how Judy got her number, and she didn't care. For the first time, those 3 words, "you're wrong," didn't sting. They healed, because sometimes being wrong isn't the end. It's the start of becoming right. Weeks passed, but the echoes of that courtroom day never faded. Clips of Judy's measured stare and Karen's stunned silence continued circulating online, transforming into a kind of cultural parable about truth, pride, and redemption. But behind the headlines, something far quieter and far more meaningful was happening. Karen was changing. Her mornings no longer began with bitterness. She started volunteering twice a week at a local community center, helping single mothers with budgeting and small business planning. Ironically, the very subject that once fueled her anger, money, had become her way to serve others. It's not about dollars, she'd tell them, it's about dignity. Those words weren't rehearsed. They came straight from the lesson Judge Judy had carved into her. And though the internet still teased her sometimes, she no longer fought back. The mockery didn't sting because she finally knew who she was when the noise faded. A woman learning to rebuild herself, one honest act at a time. For the first time in years, Karen was living without pretending. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived. The return address simply read, CBS Studios. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a note on elegant stationery, written in Judy's unmistakable firm handwriting. Karen, I've spent my life teaching people that consequences shape character. You've proven that they can also reveal it. Keep walking in truth. Judge Judy. Karen read it 3 times before setting it down, her heart swelling with a quiet pride that didn't need to shout. She framed the letter and hung it above her desk, not as a trophy, but as a reminder of the day everything changed. Months later, she was invited to speak at a local youth seminar about online accountability and personal growth. Standing at the microphone, she didn't pretend to be someone she wasn't. She began simply, I once yelled at Judge Judy and thought I'd win. But what she gave me that day was more valuable than any verdict. She gave me back my honesty. The crowd applauded, not because she was perfect, but because she was finally real. When the lights dimmed and Karen stepped off stage, she whispered one final thought to herself, words Judy had spoken that still lived in her bones. Respect isn't demanded. It's earned, and it starts with the truth. If you believe redemption is possible for anyone brave enough to face the truth, hit the like button, subscribe, and comment Truth Wins to honor Judge Judy's most powerful comeback ever.